Tomer, what's up? Really looking forward to telling your story here today, breaking into tech sales. Why don't we start with what is your current job today?
So at the minute, I work at a company called Tesseract Apps, and it's like a startup, and it's in the NDIS, which is the healthcare space in Australia, so the National Disability Insurance Scheme. And I'm selling a sort of CRM software to these people so that they can, streamline their compliances, just make their life a lot easier.
Okay, interesting. And how did you go about finding your way into this career?
So, well, it was actually, CourseCareers. Essentially, the way I started is obviously after completing the CourseCareers certificate, I just went out on the job hunt, applied to, you know, hundreds, well, not hundred, maybe like, 70, 80 jobs, and landed an interview with these guys, and you gave me a shot. And yeah, that's pretty much how it got kicked off.
And you're pretty young, right? I read you may be 18 or so. Or is that the
Yeah,
case?
I'm 19. So I started the course when I was 18. So I actually finished it the day before my birthday when I turned 19. So pretty much started the job hunt at
Okay,
19.
that's amazing because I was actually speaking to my mom the other day and I said, look, if I knew what I knew now, I probably wouldn't go to college and I would try to get directly into sales as early as possible. And I think I'd be much further ahead than I am today. And I think you're sort of a prototypical example of this is did you think about going, and I know it's different in Australia than it is here in the States where I'm at, but did you think about going to a university or a school, or did you just decide you want to get right into sales? How did you think about that decision?
So I guess from a pretty young age, I've been exposed to, the social media side where people are sort of making bucket loads of money, SMMA, drop shipping, that sort of stuff. So I kind of like, I sort of gave everything a shot. Obviously I was like maybe 16 at the time. So and I didn't really have the attention span to go with one thing all the way. So I'd try a bunch of different stuff. Um, and yeah, I'd out of college, I sort of knew I was gonna at least take a gap year to try, an alternative way of making a career outside of university. And one thing that stuck out to me with trying all these different sort of businesses is that, sales is such an important part of everything. So when I started looking into that, then came across this, and it just seemed like the right thing because, you know, first of all, I love talking to people, and yeah, it just seemed pretty apparent to me that it would definitely be a great experience to at least try, and it's worked out pretty well.
So, how did you decide Course Careers was right for you?
So it was actually, it was a number of events. So as I mentioned, I tried a bunch of different stuff. Straight out of college, which is year 12 here, um, I went and I stumbled on this thing called appointment setting, right? On YouTube. So people like doing remote closing from wherever they want, from their iPhones. And I'm like, man, I got to try this, right? So I was DMing hundreds of creators on Instagram, expecting that, they're going to give me a shot, right? And nothing happened because I'm 18 years old, no experience. And eventually someone actually asked me, yeah, okay, what's your experience? Do you have any sort of training? And I said, no. And he sort of just told me, go get training, and started researching, searched up. And I think it was initially your video that brought me in. And then I sort of went on to Shane Thomas as well. And it seemed to be, and like with all the testimonials itself, it just seemed to me like the right option, the safest option, since there were so many success stories. I actually like the videos exactly like this is what inspired me to make the leap, which is why I think that it's so valuable to do these sort of interviews.
And now you're on the other side, serving as an example and a role model for others.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's more than what I expected coming into it, I really was skeptical coming in, but it's paid off big time.
Talk about your experience going through Course Careers. How long did it take you, and what were some of your biggest learnings from the course?
So I think I think it took me about a month. No, about 3 weeks. I got it in April, around April 20th, and I finished it March 2nd, April 7th, something like that. Can't remember exactly, but I was zooming through. I was actually overseas while I was doing a lot of it, up in New Zealand, visiting my grandparents as well. So I was up in my room just doing that. And something I learned, and I think this mindset sort of set me up for success beforehand. I can't remember exactly who said it. I think it was Alex Hormozy. He said something like the work works on you more than you work on it. And I sort of came in not expecting to land a job, but like to become a person who's able to land a job, right? So from the get go, I wasn't rushing anything. I was actually trying to learn it like rigorously, becoming like valuable enough to be able to, um, you know, land a job without experience. Because at the end of the day, you're not there to get the certificate. You're there to become the person who can land a job.
What info do you think you learned from the course that you then applied to your job search and then eventually landing the job?
Everything. I mean, I think you said it yourself. The skills you use to land the job are the same skills you use in sales, right? So from prospecting, it teaches you A to Z. You know, finding finding the right companies. So the ideal customer personas, the buyer personas in those companies. So who you want to reach out to, the outreach strategy. So you're creating like a sequence, right, for the the employers, and just constantly emailing, reaching out through different strategies, teaches you everything like that. And then once you actually land the role, those are the same skills that apply, except rather than selling yourself, you're selling a product. It's a similar concept, and it applied. It really did apply, to both. You know.
Talk about what happened after you finished the course. What steps did you take to eventually find the job you have today?
So immediately on completing the course, I pretty much jumped straight into the job search. Right. So first of all, using the templates that you guys gave me, um, I created a list of companies, as I mentioned, that I want to go for, that give me a shot, and I started. So that's like Indeed, LinkedIn, all that, just finding jobs and then reaching out to them on email, LinkedIn outreach, everything I can, right? Multiple different things. And then for about 50 applications in, you start landing job searches. And then once you're in the interview, um, it's the same story, right? You're selling yourself, and you actually said it in the course, and I used it word for word. And it's kind of like a bridge, right? When you're in the interview, it's the same as sales. They need something, right? And you got to provide the solution for that, and you got to frame yourself in that way. So when you're in the interview, you got to tell them what they're gonna get and how you're gonna get it. And I think that's exactly what helped me land the job.
You're a natural sales guy.
I tried. But I
That's
put
what
I
it's
put
all
my
about.
all I put my all into it, so I didn't half-ass it at all.
So how's the actual job going? So you're selling this CRM government software situation. How's it going?
So it's really good. So it's actually like it's sort of like a startup, right? Um, I'm actually the youngest out of over 50 employees, and from the start, it was actually a pretty crazy experience. Since the start, there's no clear onboarding. The first thing I did on my first day was drive up 5 hours to a different city to do an expo. And on my first day, I was walking up to CEOs. I was doing demonstrations of something like I really only had a vague grasp of, but getting thrown right in the deep end. That's just what it's like at a company that's growing, right? It's not necessarily established, and I think to be honest, without the course, I would be completely lost since there's not a clear handbook in place. You sort of got to learn and then take the best practices and apply them yourselves. So
So do you think you would have gotten the job without the course?
definitely not. I mean, I wouldn't have even known what LinkedIn was without the course, to be honest. And if there's one
Right.
strategy for landing the job, it's LinkedIn. My boss actually told me of the 42 applicants, the reason he reached out to me is because I reached out to him on LinkedIn as well. Um, and on top of that, obviously,
Talk about that strategy on LinkedIn. What did you do, and why do you think you stood out?
so well, first of all, reaching out on LinkedIn in and of itself makes you stand out because so many people are just doing the bare minimum, right? Um, but you just got to go above and beyond, and that's a big thing with landing these jobs, right? You can't do volume. That's what I did at the start before CourseCareers. I was just mass applying. I saw on Indeed $300,000 job, remote closer. Get apply. I can get that, right? But that's not how it works. They're looking for someone specific. So you got to tailor everything, make it as like the best you can to your ability. That's what's going to make you stand out. And going on LinkedIn, reaching out, telling them again what they need, how you solve it, and like just doing that again and again, and really tailoring outreach, as I said.
What advice do you have for the aspiring job seekers out there?
Um, Probably my biggest bit of advice is to tailor, make sure everything's tailored from cover letters. Like mass applying just doesn't work, and the best way to land a role is to position yourself in a way that you're actually solving a problem that they have. Um, in in the interviews, right before the interviews, they actually often usually give you a call just to qualify you, see what you got. And I didn't have any experience, right? But a big thing that set me apart from the interviews that I did do is I would literally say word for word, I'm here to generate pipeline. I'm here to book qualified meetings. This is what I'm going to do for you. And then this is how I'm going to do it. And that in and of itself is qualifying myself as someone who knows what they're going to do when they're hopping into the job. And I said that word for word. Um, and I think I got it from you again. Uh, you must have said it somewhere in the course.
It works.
It works. It works a charm.
It works. It works. Amazing. Well, hey, thanks so much for being here today. I think you have an amazing story and excited to see where you'll keep going with all this curiosity and yeah, just keep learning and you're going to crush it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Um, watching your videos as well helps a whole lot. So if you guys are having trouble with your scripts, you gotta go to Trent Dressel.
Well, I appreciate the plug.